To understand the OSI model, let's pretend that you are an engineer in the late 1970s and you're working on an international project and you need to communicate with people about the communication that's taking place within a network. In other words, you need a way as a human being to communicate about the way that the computer is communicating. Well, you've got an issue because the communication isn't standardized. In other words, there's no standard way of people communicating about the communication of the computer. So, in the early 1980s, in February of 1980 to be specific, the International Standards Organization of about 63 countries got together and came up with standards. And a lot of these standards are still in use today. But basically what they did was they formed the standards of communication that people would use about how computers communicate. And one of the things that they did was they developed what was called the OSI model. Now, ISO stands for International Standards Organization, but OSI stands for Open Systems Interconnect. And what they did is they developed a model that would allow us to standardize interconnectivity and interoperability as well as a common language. So let's talk about each one of those individually. Interconnectivity means connecting computers. In other words, how computers would communicate. And standardizing interconnectivity and interoperability would allow the growth, and did allow the growth. For example, if I wanted to develop a network interface card, and I wanted to make sure that that network interface card would work with all of the different applications that were going to be developed, then how could I do that if I didn't know exactly where to plug it in to the big scheme of things? So when the OSI model was developed, then each developer knew what they needed to do in order to comply with the rest of the model. And that'll make more sense when we take a look at the layers of the model. By the same token, if I'm developing an application and I want to make sure that it works with that brand new Bill Ferguson network interface card, then I would have to know how to plug it into the model. In other words, I would have to know what my application needed to be able to do to communicate with the rest of the system. And being able to have that separate compartments, those separate compartments within the model, was invaluable as the industry expanded. It also gave us a common language. We could say, for example, well, this is a layer 3 technology, or this is a layer 2 technology, and that's the common language that you need to understand as well. So what we're going to do next is we're going to walk through just all of the different layers of the OSI model, kind of talk about the common language and what each one of those layers is responsible for in general. And then we're going to have a separate section on each one of the layers of the OSI model. So we'll start off with an overview of the layers of the OSI model. That's next.